Hello everybody, I'm Nora Burrows of Mostly Quilts. It has been a while since we've done a quilt chat, so it's time. We have a lot to cover. We're going to start off with this applique class that I took at my local quilt shop. But this is what I made. The technique was similar to needle turned applique, but you turn everything under before you stitch it on. You kind of use this interfacing, and at some point I'll show you how to do that. But I was really happy with this, and so I decided to keep going. I had made this one quilt block, and initially I thought it would just be an orphan quilt block that I'd put with my other ones, and then someday it would kind of be made into a quilt, and that's still the plan for this one, but I wanted to make more. So what I did is I made, this is really cute. I made this frog. So both of these fabrics are Civil War recreation fabrics, and I think that they are just really perfect together. That green really pops. And the way that I did that is I have all of these stencils. You can tell I use this stencil for an art project at some point, but I have this whole set of stencils that are animal stencils. And so I just took this frog, I cut out his little frog being parts, and then created the applique pieces to sew onto the brown background. This one was kind of my trial one, just to see how it went using the stencil, and it went pretty well. So I am making this more intricate quilt block, and as you can see, it's supposed to be this lily pad, and I'm not done with the flower. The petals are going to keep kind of going into the middle, and then I'm going to put a frog kind of on a piece of the lily pad, and this will be a quilt block. So I think it would be really cool to do all kinds of blocks with different animals. I'm not gonna say that that's what I'm gonna do, because as soon as I say that, I'm immediately gonna lose interest in this project. So I'm just gonna kind of take this one block at a time, but my hope is that I'll finish this block with the frog, which I'll show you when I'm done with it. And then I'll maybe move on to another animal, do another quilt block, because I think that could be really cool. I'm loving the applique because I can do it at night in front of the TV. So anything with my sewing machine, by the end of the day, I'm just done, and the sewing machine is loud, so I can't really be sewing on the sewing machine while my husband is watching a movie or watching a show, and I kind of want to be hanging out, watching whatever he's watching. So this hand stitching, these hand projects are perfect. I was here, quilters talking about doing their hand work, and I'm always like, that sounds great, but what am I gonna do? Well, now I have something to do. Next up is the dog quilt. So you may remember, I think I mentioned in the last quilt chat video about how I had won this penny auction from Darlene Michaud, and that I was going to take one of the fabrics that I won in the auction. The fabrics that I won in this auction, I was gonna make something out of it. And I did do a video on that. It's titled something about a dog quilt or a dog, whatever. I'll link to it in the description. But I finished that quilt. I took some of that fabric, I used all fabric that I already had to pair with this dog fabric here. I'll show you the quilt. So the fabric from Darlene, oh, it's upside down. The fabric from Darlene was this dog fabric. And I cut the dog fabric. There were 4 different dogs on the fabric, and then, some of these little interesting bits here. And some of them I put rickrack on, which I really love. I was at the store the other day and I was gonna buy more rickrack. So I was like, I wanna keep using rickrack. But then it occurred to me that I shouldn't just be buying these things to have on hand. I should be intentional about, if I have a project that I wanna use the rickrack on, I can go and I can buy the right color, but I definitely wanna use rickrack in other projects. So here's the dog on the green. We have the dog on the yellow. I think that's a wiener dog, super cute. Here's one with the rickrack. I didn't have enough rickrack to use on every single one of the colors, so I think I just used it on the blue blocks and the red blocks. This dog is really adorable. Isn't he cute? So again, I used that fabric from Darlene, the dog fabric, and then I just used other fabric that I already had. I didn't have to buy anything for this project except for the batting. I already had the rickrack as well. So that was great. I hand bound this quilt. Hand bound this quilt. It took a little while, But again, it was needlework in front of the TV, which was great. I mean, and as I've mentioned before, I love doing the hand binding, so that was fantastic. I will say that I discovered a new YouTube channel that I binge watched while I was doing this hand binding. So I was doing some of the hand binding like on the weekends in the morning, and I would watch this YouTube channel called Terribly Rad. It's this young lady. She's doing this series called, I think it's called 26 in 21. And her goal is to make 26 quilts in the year 2021. And so each quilt is usually about 3 episodes long. The episodes are pretty short. And so I don't know how far I am. I think she's like maybe halfway through her quilts, but she's definitely on track. I'm behind in this series. I'm sure she's gonna make her goal. She's very committed, but I really like her. I really like her videos. If you're looking for some YouTube videos to just binge watch, Terribly Rad, it's all one word. Next is the Mystery Quilt. I'm feeling a little, I'm behind on this Mystery Quilt, but I have to say, I love this quilt so much. It's hard for me to express. Now, I'm gonna take this and we're gonna look at these pieces together because I did make some changes from the last time we talked. So as you may remember, I had this rainbow raindrop fabric here that I really loved and I thought went incredibly well with my 2.5-inch squares, which, I mean, it really does. There's no denying that. But I didn't have enough of it. So I went to the store and I looked for another fabric. And I thought, this fabric, you know, kind of complements this pretty well. The grays are a little different, but I thought once you matched them with all those pops of color of squares, it would work. And then I also needed an accent fabric, and I got this accent fabric. Well, I started sewing the raindrop fabric onto the squares as instructed in the video. The quilt along that I'm doing, it's a mystery quilt along by the Warped Spinster. And so per her instructions, I started, you know, sewing my pieces together, and they looked good. Now, spoiler alert, these all used to be sewn to other pieces, and I seam ripped them off, and I'll tell you why. Because I started then sewing this fabric onto pieces, and I just loved this so much more. But when I started putting them next to each other, I just felt like the black and white gray fabric went so much better than the raindrop fabric. It was just night and day. Let me show you an example of what I mean. So here are some pieces that I've sewn together. And in almost every instance, you know, you look at this and it looks pretty cool. And then you do something like this and it just didn't look as cool. Okay, something like this, you put the raindrop on, and it's just not quite as cool. I mean, that particularly is cool because it's the raindrops falling onto the fish. But in general, I just think visually that looks so much better. Again, you know, you put the raindrop on. It's not as sophisticated. I feel like the raindrop just isn't as sophisticated. So that's what I decided. I seam ripped all of the raindrops off, and I made, you know, this decision to use just this fabric. And I had plenty of that background fabric, so that's fine. I am very behind on this quilt along, but I feel okay about that because I'm still making a good amount of progress. Let me show you some of the other pieces I put together. These ones are particularly cool because they have the background fabric in them. So if you were to imagine this, you know, with this instead, this one's not the right size, but you get the point. Like, it just doesn't feel as cool to me as that. This feels just more grown up. So these are really neat. So you can see it has the background strip here, and I think they're just all really, really super fun and different. And then here are some where you put just, you know, a pop of color on the end of these strips. I don't know what's gonna happen to these because I haven't watched ahead. She has released I'm a couple videos behind, so I don't actually know what we're doing with all these strips. But if you think about it, you know, if you picture something like this, I think it's just gonna be so cool, right? I mean, there's just so many really, really neat options. So I'm excited for this. This is coming along well. I just need to keep going. The other thing that I've been making that I am so excited about that I think gonna make into a baby quilt are these Peekaboo Blocks. I did a video on these Peekaboo Blocks, how to make them. I'll link to that in the description. But the idea behind these Peekaboo Blocks, and they're just so adorable, I can't get enough of them, is that it's like, you know, you have these pieces that are closed and then you open them up and there's some like novelty fabric on the inside. So there's the Eiffel Tower, and then this one is, you know, a cat. So for kids who are, you know, playing with everything and wanting to open and shut doors and all kinds of things, they have this blanket and then they can open up these little flaps and then see something inside. And, you know, the parent or guardian can be like, cat, Eiffel Tower, Paris. I did another set that are these teacups. So each one has a different teacup in this tulip pink fabric. And since the video, you get an extra little, since I made the video, I did another one. This one you open up and it's a horse galloping. Isn't that fun? So I made that one after the video, so you get a little extra peek. That is about it. But since you stayed till the end of this video, I'll give you a sneak peek of what's coming up. So if I can find it, here it is. I have a video coming up, a fall video on placemats. Here is the placemat. I feel like I should put it with something on the back of it so that you can see it better. Let's see if this works. That's better, right? So I designed this, I made it up, I drew it out, I made the measurements, and I made a video about it. So that's coming up. Don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss that placemat. As you can see, this is not actually a placemat yet. I have to put the backing on and bind it and put in the batting, but it will be a placemat. Check out that video. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.